Another very common problem for programming assessments is the product of the array except self. The idea is that you have some array and you want to take the product of all the numbers in the array with the exception of the number that you're on. So for 1, 2, 3 at position 0 where you have value 1, that would change to 2 times 3 times 4 resulting in 24. And then for 2, 3, and 4 you have 12, 8, and 6 otherwise. So clearly there is one exception that we want to take a look at, and that is when you have a 0, right? And we're going to have a few different ways to handle zeros. But first, let's start by taking the length of our array. So n equals len of nums, okay? And now the first thing that we want to say is if nums.count of 0 is greater than 1, right? We want to return an array of size n, so of the size of that starting array with all zeros. Because here's the thing, no matter where you're at in the array, if there is more than one 0 in that array, at any position you are multiplying all the numbers by 0. Okay, and there's nothing else you can do. Now, we need a starting point to take our product. That is prod equals 1, and we'll say for v in nums, if v is not equal to 0, prod equals prod times v. That's the whole product of the array, of all the values inside of that array. And what we're going to do is traverse through our array, and then we are going to ultimately divide by the number that we land on. Okay? So there is an exception that obviously you'll notice shortly. And that is, so let's start with this. If nums.count of 0 equals 1, nums.count of 0 is 1. We only have one 0 in this array. We're okay. Okay, we're okay. But what we need to do is ants equals an array of 0 times the length of the original array, and that is where we're just going to return all zeros for the length of that array. And then we'll say end equals nums.index of 0. Okay, so this is the index where this only 0 in the array exists. Okay, and that's the only one that's going to have a different value from 0, right? So we need to take the product of all the values in the array with the exception of itself, right? And ultimately what we'll say is return ants. That's our whole array. Okay, now for all the other cases, what we want to say is for I in range n, we'll traverse through our array, nums I equals prod, floor division, nums I, because we want to remain in integer format. Return nums, run, accepted, submit, outstanding.